And we did it. Hello, we're live. Welcome to Live Reality Games, the podcast. I am your host for the Survivor New York version, Naomi Calhoun. It's nice to see you. With me today, I have three amazing Survivor New York guests. First of all, our host, our Lord and Savior, Chris Lord. What's going on?
Hi, nice to be back. And I'm really excited to be here because I haven't seen Caleb and Andrea in such a long time. So nice to
I
see your guys'
know.
face.
Yeah, good to see you too, Chris.
It's so exciting. I just got a message from Vanessa. It's like, I can't find it. It's like, it's been 1 minute.
Oh.
And so also with us today, we have Andrea Fuller, who is season 3 production member and season 4 contestant. Andrea, how are you?
Living the dream, by which I mean living with my parents in North Carolina. So, you know, it's 2020, baby. I'm good.
You're good. You're all right.
Yeah.
Making it through.
I'm surviving. I mean, I'm both simultaneously pulling out gray hairs and then having to tell my parents where I'm going, how long I'll be gone, and who I'm going with. So, you know, it's 2020.
16 and 60, you know, that's a big
Hilarious.
Yeah.
And with us is our most recently eliminated player, Caleb. Caleb, what the hell is going on? How are you?
I am doing pretty well. Really, really excited to relive this catastrophic failure and explain to you guys what I was thinking. That
Yes.
none of it happened, but I can show you at least my thought process behind it.
Yeah, well, I have to say, I've seen worse flameouts on the real show, and I feel like in live reality games in general. So I just wanted to say before we start that Chris and I did something a little different this year because of COVID-19, because we don't know when live reality games are going to be possible and safe, and we love to sort of cast a really wide net, and we don't want to do too insular of a cast. So we've created something called a casting pool, which is at the link of tinyurl.com/smycasting. And what this means is that if you are interested in playing Survivor New York, you can fill out this form, and we're sort of keeping you on our roster, much like Survivor does in general, where you don't just apply for one season, you just kind of apply for the show. We're really excited to get to know people. You don't need to include a video, you just need to include a photo and fill out as detailed and sort of selling yourself as you can. Fill out our form and answer our questions. And hopefully down the line, we will get in contact with you and talk to you about playing season 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. But that's getting ahead of ourselves now, isn't it? So right off the bat, Chris, let's talk about episode 2. We have Caleb. Let's talk.
I know, this is really exciting. So where we last left off, you know, Serena was voted out. And we're seeing the aftermath of it. Like, Emily is panicked that she just received a vote. And then Caleb just survived after receiving 3 votes.
Yes.
And then there's kind of like this moment, like Hong is sort of in this like weird balance. And then you see it later in the episode where she lies about her vote, but she talks about how, like, right in her first confessional, like, hey, I was not part of that vote, and I think I'm screwed. And she thought she had Pete, but she didn't have Pete. And then we get to see a great confessional from Pete about how you just can't work with everybody. And I think that sums up like a really great Survivor thing where you can have a lot of alliances, but you really can't work with everybody. So I did have a question right off the bat for Kayla. Was like, you know, was that Emily vote talked about? Because on my end and seeing the footage, we really didn't hear many people talk about trying to figure it out and decipher it.
So from my perspective, and I think if you watch the first 6 episodes, you'll see that I was very disconnected from a lot of things. I know that Emily was very worried about that vote, but I don't know if she ever got to the bottom of it, at least not while I was there. But it certainly scared her. So Mark I did not realize Mark was as sneaky as he was. So watching his confessionals is hilarious to see him sort of move around, and it cracks me up. So he accomplished his goal of sort of sowing chaos by throwing that vote out there, because Pete, the puppet master, didn't even know what was going on. So great job, Mark. It worked. And but I didn't know if she found out, but I know she was concerned about it. And she actually thought that she could be next on the block because of that vote.
Right. And so when you got these 3 votes, I know that you were expecting like some votes at tribal council, but when you got sort of 3 of them, how did that make you feel?
Oh, it didn't feel great, and I had to like think back as to like why. I don't think I rubbed people the wrong way. Now, when you do these interviews the rest of the way, they may say they hated me, but I think even from like the words that are shown in the confessionals, they were like, "I like him, he's super nice," and like I had multiple people offering to work to me. But my strategy going into this game was like, I want to play this very slow, and I want to see what comes to me as opposed to being like the aggressive person going out. Like Pete was incredibly aggressive, like go, 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 work, 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 talk to everybody. And that instantly made me not trust him. I was like, he's playing too hard. I don't like this. And I wanted to play it a little bit slower. But what I very quickly realized is that in a game that's only 2 days, you cannot sit back and wait. You have to go and be very forward and aggressive. And so what I think happened is by being aloof and sort of staying back and waiting for things to come to me, instead of things coming to me, everything just worked around me. And so I knew there were more votes coming, especially, I'll never forget, the moment that I knew I was gone was the entire tribe was grouped up together, or what felt like the entire tribe, definitely a majority. And I went over and walked to the circle to go and talk to them and hear what was going on. And every single person physically moved the circle away from me. And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, oh, it's me.
Did you know who voted for you the first time?
I had an idea because I think Pete had looped me in for that first vote. And so I was in on that. And so I knew where we stood there, and I sort of knew who he was working with, but I wasn't 100% certain of who voted against me. I knew Serena would have.
Right.
Which makes sense. So I knew the one, but I didn't necessarily know the other 2.
Yes. So the other 2 people who do vote against you are Hung and Emily. Emily says she feels so bad for Serena, and this is why she can't vote for Serena to go home. She knew that was happening. And I think that Serena found that your name was the name that could get the most traction. And the reason that you come up is because obviously Pete is protecting you to an extent because he wants to bring you in. It just so happens that like this situation doesn't work out in your favor. So Pete has his sort of Eddie, Charles, and Mark alliance, and then they are bringing in Sarah and possibly Katie and possibly Emily. They're kind of like, it's almost like Pete is like picking a dodgeball team, and he's just looking at everybody really hard and being like, do I want this person? I don't know. Well, I'll think about it. And it's incredible. He really just like lines everybody up.
Yeah.
And
well, look, go ahead.
I was going to say, did anybody talk about going after Pete at this point in the game? I mean, like if he was rubbing you the wrong way, I never heard it.
I think
didn't
Sarah,
talk about it.
Everybody you see in the first episode, the girls kind of mention it. People talk about how he's playing hard, but I think what works to Pete's benefit and works to a lot of people's benefit in live reality games up until like, when you're seen as a target is Pete is so good at saying like, well, you're in my alliance, and you're like, oh, I'm in an alliance now. Okay, great. Like I'm in an alliance. Awesome. And you don't feel like you want to betray the person who's just brought you into an alliance.
Yeah, in terms of Pete, this is on me, and I can't remember the exact timing, whether this was for the first vote or the second vote, but he said, like, guys stick together and you're going to be fine. And so I think that was before the first vote, at which point I knew that I was not going to go home then because the name wasn't on me. But I didn't fully throw my trust into it. And like I said, the strategy was like sit back, wait, observe, and then make moves. In terms of the second vote, my mind was obviously on voting out Katie because I thought she was going to be so good at this game. I think she was smart, she was personable, and I thought she was a threat. But now, with the benefit of hindsight, that is a later stage move as opposed to a early in the game move. But I thought she was playing very well and had the potential to go really, really far.
Yeah, Chris. Chris, you had just seen this kind of from an outsider's perspective. So, because you obviously weren't filming everything that was happening on Yellow, So what did you think after, seeing Caleb have 3 votes read against him? Like what were you thinking about when we saw Yellow kind of, even before they lost again?
Yeah. I really thought, like, obviously Hong and Caleb were on the outs, and I even thought, Emily was on the outs. So I really thought, okay, one of the next 3 to go is going to be one of these 3 people. But I never really thought it would be Caleb. And I'm sort of confused as to why it was Caleb, because Hong, I didn't really see like a reason not to vote for her to go, because I felt like between Caleb and Hong, they kind of were like similar, like performances. Emily, the track record for Emily was the same as Caleb. She lost against her mother. Caleb lost against his mother, and then they lost the second immunity challenge, but Emily never had a single target on her back. So I question that, and at the same time I'm curious as to why Pete said that he would bring in Caleb, but then never really mentioned Emily and Hong. Like, I think I love Hong, but I think the decision should have been for Hong to go home. But I'm assuming that they just didn't know that she voted with Serena, and that's why she was able to kind of like sneak under the radar there.
I think my other theory is that once Caleb started throwing Katie's name out there, because I know that was something you were pitching, that Katie is such an asset to someone like Pete, because Katie doesn't really know the game. She just knows how to be loyal, and that's like a really, important. Like, Katie is fascinating because she reminds me of a lot of old school players, where she's very loyal to whoever sort of picks her up. And so Pete, I think, saw like the threat of Katie going home is like really large. And so rather than sort of keep Caleb and keep the fighting, it was like, oh, well, if we lose Caleb, then we lose someone who's targeting Katie. But this is all post immunity madness, and everybody's asking about it.
It was interesting to watch the perception of Katie, because I think as us on casting, like, and crew, we knew she didn't know, like, she wasn't a Survivor fan. She had come into this sort of randomly. But the perception, like you said, Caleb, of you, and I heard this, in filming, is a lot of people thought she's going to be a great player. She's great. And it seemed like she just had this sort of, natural charisma. But let's talk about, I'm curious, I mean, so this came up in one of the confessionals, and I don't think got fully explored in the episode.
Yeah, and Alex is also asking about it. Well, he says, it seems like Caleb got targeted because he backed out of being a caller in the immunity challenge, and Andrea has something to say.
No, I thought it was interesting. So, I mean, Caleb, I'll let you talk us through what happened, but it's interesting that you were targeted for this because you had originally stepped up, and then the tribe had said, we actually want a woman to be the caller because the other team has who was the caller on the other team?
Sam was the caller.
Thank you, Sam. We want like a more distinct voice. And you had sort of like been, at least from what I saw, kind of pushed into backing down, and then they kind of blamed you for it. At least that's what I saw on production. But,
so I mean, look, that's a great move. If they can force my hand and then vote me out because of what they forced me to, that's very strong play. No skin off my back. So I initially volunteered because I knew that I was already in trouble, and I thought this is a way to add value. But then when like the sort of descent on being like, we want a woman to go, my like sort of equity research mind took over, and I was like, risk minimization, like don't go out there, because it's a very visible screw up if you're the caller and it doesn't go poorly. So I was like, I can step down from this because I cannot risk downside here. I need to raise the floor of my game, and clearly that was the wrong move.
Who was it? Do you remember? Because I don't, because it's been 2 years. Who was it that started the "We Want a Woman to Go" thing? I want to know. Like, I don't remember.
I don't remember either. I think it was like general discussion around the tribe, but it definitely was talked about. And Chris, to your point about challenge performance, I actually performed like relatively well on this challenge. I'm pretty sure that I got all of
Yeah.
my blocks and multiple ones
Mhm.
back. So I like came out of there and I was like, you know what? We didn't win, but like I did my job. So I was like, maybe that will save me. They'll be like, he's not that bad at challenges. It also
Right.
doesn't help that I'm slow, and the first challenge is an agility one. And then watching it back, I just thought that my mom was faster than me, and I completely forgot that I flipped the board over like 6 times on accident.
Yes,
So-
well, and I think
Oh God.
I actually think it's twofold. I think your tribe strategy is correct. You want to have a voice that's distinct from the other tribe, so picking a woman is not a bad idea. However, I think for you, like, if you say no, I've got this, it almost is like one of those classic Survivor like ego screw ups where someone's like, no, I can do it, and then they can't do it. Which isn't to say that like I don't think you could have done a good job, but like if things go wrong, you just look like such a jerk for like insisting, even if you're really just trying to demonstrate your like value to the tribe. It's like such a dangerous spot to be in.
Yeah, Naomi, that's a home run move. It is, I need to get back in the good graces and I'm going to do this, and it's all on my back. And I thought that I was in a position where I needed to hit singles and doubles. Turns out I needed to hit that home run, and it maybe should have been a grand slam, not just a home run.
Yeah, I guess looking back at the perspective, you might as well go for it if that's gonna exactly like Billy just says. It seems like a lose-lose situation. If they end up losing regardless, which I don't know is true, but I just think that like it was. You can also say that like part of why you guys lost is because like Katie didn't lead you very well. So would you have done a better job if you were leading it? All these fun sort of scenarios. And also something I wanted to point out from the chat that was interesting earlier is that Anessa is commenting on behalf of Dear Eddie. She says, Eddie told me that he wanted to work with Katie and had a big thing with her, and he didn't like that Caleb threw her name out. So what we were talking about is true. And then there's also a little commentary that Eddie and Katie were both rookies, and so they bonded over being kind of rookies, which
interesting.
Is interesting.
And one thing to clarify here, I did not throw Katie's name out first, but I certainly was the first person on the bandwagon. So
I think there's a clip of Hung saying Katie to you, and you go, "I'm in."
Yeah, I was like, that's like right up my alley. I think the exact phrase I used was, "I'm not opposed to that."
Yeah, you did.
And so, bad move on my part again. Getting a lot of the pushback for something that wasn't necessarily my first move, but I was certainly into it. So it makes sense that they can use that as a vote out tactic.
What's your biggest coulda, woulda, shoulda?
Oh, if I should have been attached to the hip to Pete. That's like it was possible. It was possible. Like I knew he was at least looking to work with me. So like it's just a mistake and a miss on my part. I didn't trust him because he was playing so hard and he felt really sort of. I don't trust the like inherent salesman people, and that's what he felt like. I need like to build the relationship first, and so like I would have worked like really. I would have really wanted to work with Eddie because I thought like we had a good thing going. So it's like I thought we were friendly, and I thought we were similar personalities. But once again, I was trying to slow play it. I was trying to slow play a very fast game.
Yeah, I mean, and especially like with 20 people, and we had to get through so many votes that first day. Like it was like the speed of light. And I think we said the same thing to Serena too. Like if you just have like and that's what the purple tribe really benefits from, as we see in this. Like they don't have to strategize like crazy, so they can start building plans and really like sort of stacking their Lego blocks and seeing what they want to build. Whereas you guys, especially losing 2 in a row, are just like forced into like your feet are on the fire, and it really doesn't benefit somebody who is already in kind of a vote copping spot. And so I think that like you and Serena just get like a brutal end of the stick and being like the first votes of the game, where a lot of people. Because I think most live reality games, people know the pace of a start of a game, and you guys were so blind compared to most casts that we're asking so much of you guys, and it just becomes like an awful situation for the people who have to go first.
Can I talk directly to Serena for a second?
Yes.
When I saw her crying confessional at the end, Serena, I'm sorry. You're a great person. I didn't Like, I hope we didn't hurt your feelings too much. Like,
No,
that made me so sad.
I speak for all criers everywhere. Serena, if she's anything like me, just crying. I think she's over it.
And can I break the fourth wall? Break the fourth wall for a second?
Yeah. Go ahead.
In terms of give a behind the scene production thing, I didn't give my exit interview immediately after.
I remember this.
I was too frustrated. I was like, I don't think I'm going to say like nice things or like words that are like make sense. And so I literally just needed 5 minutes. I got my phone back and I was like, oh, I have a bunch of work to do. This is okay. And then I went back out there and was like, here we go. But like in the moment, I was like, I played so poorly and this is stupid. And I was just frustrated. And I needed I just needed a minute to calm down.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Caleb. So we haven't talked about it yet, but does your mom ever like bring up the fact that she beat you in this game?
Oh, all the time. She mostly brings it up because she goes, you know,
well, don't spoil anything about how Sandy does, but
she goes, I fly up there for you. I play this game for you. And then you just abandoned me. Cause like my other family was in town too. And so like, we went out and saw the sights in New York City. We went to a steak dinner and she's like, and I wasn't there cause I was playing this game. So she like brings it up as like a joke. Like I beat you and you got to have a very nice experience while she had to go stay out in the woods.
So funny. And also, first of all, Billy from season 4 says, I love the Be Nice to My Mom as Caleb left. That was almost the episode title. We were very close between that, but it was a problem where we realized that Louis says blood is thicker than water, but so is yogurt in this episode. And so we had to do it.
I loved it. It's one of my favorite eliminations. Like it really is.
But also Sandy hang on. Exciting news. Sandy is now a grandmother and Caleb is an uncle, which I just think is adorable. And I love that. Like
cute.
Your mom is so excited about it.
Yeah, Sandy is very much enjoying grandma life. So she's the best. I mean, she's the best. Like watch to see what happens, but Sandy's the best.
We've talked about this before, but there's the back-to-back confessionals of your mom being like, we're winning, and then Susan just being like, I just hope Emily doesn't get voted out. And it's just like, your mom fucking kills me.
Oh my god, your mom after winning the immunity challenge, like her like yelling and like getting hugged by whoever, I was just like laughing so hard. She just like I think she kind of threw it in your face a little bit.
Oh yeah, she's super competitive. And I knew that coming in, but it took that moment of her like stomping on my neck for me to realize, oh, she's not gonna take it easy.
So how did you end up here? Like, what's your relationship? It sounds like you're the fan, the super fan. Yeah. Like, what's the backstory between how you and your mom came to this?
So I found this on Reddit. Someone had posted there was an application for it, and I applied.
Second Reddit, yes.
Because I think actually Serena and I saw it on the same subreddit. It was the MTV's challenge subreddit, not even the Survivor.
I didn't know we posted there.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
Dan posted.
No,
it there too.
That was a great spot. You got two people.
Yeah.
And so I was like a super fan, and I was like, you know what? I've watched enough of this show. I know how to play this game. I can do this. And then Sandy has never seen an episode in her life. And but I was like, I'm going to ask her to do this because one, she'll say yes. If I ask her to do anything, she'll say it because she just wants to spend time with me. And if it meant more time, she'd do it. And then two, I thought it would be hilarious because she would not be a super strategic player. And so to see her try and navigate that and figure out how to play around other people that are trying to vote her out would just crack me up. And so I thought she'd be a great fit.
And you guys live where again?
I was in New York City at the time, and she was in New Orleans.
Okay, but you're in Boston now, you said?
Yeah, I'm in Boston. I'm back in school. So.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. And I remember, like, we were so excited to get, like, especially these family relationships that aren't brother and sister or, people who are close in age or sort of people who are, especially in the older spectrum, willing to come out and play live games. Because Pete is an icon, and I think part of why Pete's an icon is because he is a guy who is just like older than everybody, but so willing to play on the same playing field. And that's what we love about him, and that's what we love about all like Sam and Susan and Sandy, because they really were taking a risk to come play with their loved ones, and it's just a delight to like get to spend time with them, as well as you. Not to like say that we liked hanging out with your mom more than you, but
well, to be fair,
really
you
fun.
got a lot more time spent with Sandy than you do with me. So,
so
I think that brings up a good point, though. I just want to say is that the blood versus water thing is fun and it's exciting, but there are a lot of pairs in the game where one person is 100% invested while the other one is not as invested into the game. And so in this pairing, it was obviously you that was like 100% like wanting to go all the way to the end, and Sandy was just kind of like, I'll go to the end if I have to be here, but if I get voted up, it's kind of like whatever. So I think that brings a really interesting point to Sandy's game, because she has nothing to lose because she already lost you in this game. So I think going forward, seeing how she plays, like she can go balls to the wall, or she can just kind of like lay over and die if she wants to. You know what I'm saying? Like there's so many different ways she can play this game, and I think that that makes her interesting to me.
Yeah, also the competitiveness.
I have remained somewhat spoiler free here, but Sandy is not a lay down and die person. I know that she gave it her all out there. So we'll see how it ends up, but I know she gave it
like her competitive spirit for sure.
I want to compliment you guys, like as a member. So I came into this not knowing you guys as a member of production. I just showed up and was like, hey, I'm going to produce a show. What's up? I love this cast. I know Dan did a lot of the casting here. I really want to give a shout out to Dan. I think it's so interesting to have these age gaps. Like it gives a kind of diversity a lot of other LRGs don't have. And two, just like a lot of LRGs are just like super fans galore. And we've got like people who don't really know the show, and seeing the super fans, the people who don't really know it, navigate that together. I think it's great. I think it was great to see you guys out there.
Yeah, 100%. That's a big shout out to Dan. They worked really hard to make sure that this group was like very diverse in background and age, and like it really comes together. And that's what I love, is that somebody can lose their loved one in the game and still be just as competitive because they love playing the game. It's really fun. And so Anessa's asking, do you guys recap the episode? Yes, Anessa, we do. And yes, we'll talk about the Purple Tribe now. But look, none of us were with the Purple Tribe because y'all were just chilling, okay?
I was with Yellow Tribe. I was following you guys around. I don't know what they were doing.
So the Purple Tribe also blends together quite a bit, and this is no offense to them, it's just because they had 2 times in a row where they didn't go to tribal, so we don't know like the full timeline of a lot of this. But first of all, Louis in the comments, Louis finds the idol clue. Caleb, were you surprised to see that there was an idol clue in the immunity idol?
Yes, I was. Well, we didn't even win it, so I never got to look. But I took a look around tribal to try and find the idol at the very end. I was like, look, I got to find something. I'm going down tonight. So it was unfortunate that I couldn't find it, but it was interesting to see how quickly the clue was found. And I'm excited to see how he gets away with it, because you guys put it in not an easy spot to get it.
No, and also Chris, if let's say Caleb finds that idol, because the idol is basically hidden under Chris's podium. If Caleb finds that idol, is that a valid find? Does he get the idol?
That is a valid find. Just like Adam in Winners at War, if that was a real idol, like that would have been anybody's.
Wow.
Could I have played the entire podium? Would that have worked?
That's a good point. I don't know. I have to put that in the rules.
You tape that thing pretty good to the table, I have to say.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that later.
What did you think of the Purple Tribe? I'm just curious, Caleb.
Yes.
Like,
Caleb,
did you have any?
Think watching this?
Like, what was your assessment of them? Did you have any day 1, day 0 kind of pre-game conversations with any of them?
Yeah, love Gary. Took the car ride from the train station to the like prep area house with Gary, and he was just cracking me and my mom up. Loved him. Sanchea and I like we were vibing day zero. I thought she was a great person. Was very personable. I just thought I thought they were a tight tribe. I didn't expect them to do as well in these challenges as they did. It's not like I would look at them from an outsider's perspective and be like, that's a dominant, like, winning tribe. But
Right.
they clearly had good teamwork, and they clearly knew their skill sets and just executed. So I thought they were a good tribe, and I had very good feelings about Gary and Sanchea from the day zero interactions.
Yeah, if you want to have like good teamwork, just have a former gym teacher boss you around. Like that's the best way to do it. 'Cause Sam really just like that was like a military unit in some ways, just like the way those guys went out there and came back with those pieces. Also, Inessa says she just realized that Louis is searching for the idol with us, while he already knew where it was. Which is true, although to be fair, there could always be more idols out there. But yes, Louis was leading a goose chase of no idol possibly to be found. Louis says, I kept saying things like, I feel like it's right on top of our heads and we don't know it because the clue is in my hat, which is insane.
Hilarious.
And so we start to see some groups form. It's really sort of, we obviously don't know like where the lines are in this group because they haven't gone to tribal, but Inessa is really trying to make connections with people like Sam and Susan and Sandy, who are kind of the older group, but then there's Gary and Louie and Hoy who are all connecting. And so really it's kind of this crazy group because there are no sort of alliances. So going forward, if these guys lose, do you guys have, look, it's very hard to say because we do know what happens, but who do you think would have been in danger, let's say, if the purple tribe went to tribal council right now? This is a very sort of touchy way of talking about it.
Well, I think that, based off of Inessa's confessional about like there being many different like pairs and she's like a fifth wheel, I would say that anybody that Inessa claimed that she was with is probably safe.
Yeah.
So that basically means all 5 men and herself. So it probably would be, well, since Sanchea did win that first challenge for their tribe, I would say it would be between Susan, Sandy, or, oh my God, I can't think of the other person. Sorry.
Well, so I think you're right in that
one of those three.
Sanchea actually pulled herself out of being in danger. Sanchea is clicking well with people, and losing Serena is probably a benefit to her. Sandy, on the other hand, I don't know how much of a benefit losing Caleb is to her game. And I think Avanti is the other person who is Katie's friend and is coming in not knowing a lot about Survivor. And so she runs the risk of just being somebody who doesn't know a lot about the game, and, you know, something could happen.
But I do think it's interesting, though. You heard in the episode about how Susan, you know, she's not a huge fan either, and she's really there for Emily. But Louie and Gary both talk about how she's an Earth Angel and they want to protect her life, and they'll do anything to save her. But they didn't really say that about anybody else. So even though she's not a huge fan, she really found like this like pocket full of people that want to work with her and want to see her do well in this game. So I think that would have been her saving grace, at least for the first 2 tribals. So that really kind of narrows it down, that I think the first boot could potentially be Sandy or Avanti or maybe Sanchea, depending.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is all tricky because we all basically know the spoilers, but it is, I think, in this situation, you know, it's fun because for us, especially the Yellow Tribe sort of coordinators and handlers, we had no idea what was going on at Purple. So we were just kind of like, well, we'll see it if they ever lose, and like moving on from there. So Caleb, this challenge, did you bump into anybody? Because we do the classic blindfold challenge, and I'll have to, look, before we talk about Caleb's experience, I just want to talk about something, which is Inessa, I swear to God, Inessa picks up 2 puzzle pieces, the yellow and the purple one, and someone says, oh, the purple's in your left hand. She goes, great, and then wings the yellow piece so far, I think it went into the playground. She threw it
this is
behind
so
her.
dramatic.
and just like through like it obviously intentionally trying to get the piece as far away as possible, and we were like no, and I think Stan brought it back and put it in the ground, but she just chucked the shit out of that thing. So I just want to say, Anessa, you definitely did, and I have video footage and I will be posting it.
No, I remember that happening because this is the first time I think I didn't know Anessa, and I was like, who is this girl?
Okay, so with that information, we should have restarted the challenge. It's clearly illegal, you know.
That definitely happened. I can attest to it.
No, okay, so here's the thing. I think if you had thrown it like a couple feet over, but you chucked it like you were trying to like get somebody out at home plate. It was crazy. You threw that thing so far. And we were like, this is not cool. We got to get this back.
I mean, I was kind of impressed because she kind of hacked the game. There was no rule technically against it. And, you know, I played in an LRG where I actually was the Anessa. So I don't know. But I think having like 4 people from production behind me saying, oh no, we shouldn't do that, kind of like, you know, made me think, okay, maybe we shouldn't do it. But at the same time, I thought it was great for TV. If we had gotten it on camera, I would have said, like, let's throw it in there and, like, you know, get some confessionals about it. But it was still a good moment for, like, us as production.
Oh, yeah. In general, that's a good move. If it was against the rules, obviously we said it. But it's a great move. Anything to put your opponent at a disadvantage. Like, I respect the hell out of that. So. And to you, Chris, who's done that as well.
And I do want to say that the challenge that you see, the puzzle, is actually a Tower of Hanoi challenge build, which was made by a friend of mine. And I really wanted the challenges to actually go quicker. Like, Dan gave me some insight that he thinks all the challenges should probably be like 10 minutes or less because it would help, you know, make the day go quicker. So that's sort of a new rule of thumb that I kind of go by, is like quicker challenges make for more strategy time. So we got rid of the puzzle last second from Tower of Hanoi to just like this blindfolded, like stacking from the largest piece to the smallest piece. Because I think a Tower of Hanoi with 8 pieces could potentially last like 30 minutes or maybe even longer than that. But I just wanted to...
And also we were like pretty, not like in a bad way, but we were pretty behind just from the puzzles in the beginning and, you know, taking all the photos.
I think we went to bed at like 3 a.m.
Oh yeah, I think I've told this story before. Sarah and Josh, God bless them, drove me home because Sarah lives near me. And what a miracle. They drove me home because I don't think I would have made it out of Grand Central if I took the Metro North home. And I fell asleep on my bed with my phone alarm open to set my alarm for work the next day. And I woke up like basically almost late for work, but like I was so tired that I genuinely just like hit my bed and fell asleep. Like,
hey, at least you didn't go the wrong direction on Metro North and call you crying at 2 a.m. because you were...
Oh, can you tell the story,
God.
please? The story is hilarious and horrible.
So this is actually after Survivor New York 4, so no spoilers, but I was very tired and I went the wrong direction on Metro North and ended up in Poughkeepsie and called Naomi crying. I was like totally out of my mind. And then the Amtrak comes by and I was like, can I get on? And they're like, we're full. And I'm like, can I buy they're like, no, you don't have a ticket. And I was like, can I buy a ticket? They're like, we're full. But I'm like, there's seats. And then I started sobbing, just like sobbing. And the Amtrak guy let me on the train because he's like, I couldn't leave you there crying. And so I was just like called Naomi sobbing on the train. Anyway, I was in Poughkeepsie. I have no idea what time I got home.
To come pick you up. I was at parents' house.
You did come pick me up. Naomi is a hero. I had a
You didn't call me. I could have picked you up too.
Well, I should have just stayed. I don't know. Needless to say, this is a sleep deprivation experience.
You know, there's an episode of Friends very similar to that.
Can I just say, in defense, that's from my house, you probably got onto the Beacon train. Poughkeepsie's only like 3 stops up. So
yeah,
it's
you
not
just
so
took the train
bad.
like 15 minutes away.
Yeah, but I couldn't get back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that was right. It was a really long time. Anyways, moving on. That one I forgot about. I can't believe I forgot about.
Okay, so they lose the challenge, and now it's time to strategize. we kind of already touched upon this, the strategy, like for this tribal. You know, we saw
Caleb,
you like target Katie.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Naomi.
What is your goal? Like, when your brain is sort of firing off the strategy, what are you trying to accomplish?
Find the first name that is not my own and stick to it like glue. And when Katie came out of Hong's mouth, I was like, "That's it. We're going." But
Hong didn't vote for Katie. So why do you think?
I know.
Like, what happened there?
Because what I think happened is she realized there's no traction, and I think when I tell you, Chris, there was a circle of I think every other member of the tribe except me. I'm pretty sure she got in there, and they're like, "Vote for Caleb," and she was like, "Okay, that's easier for her than trying to rally the troops for a different name."
That's true.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, if they tell her vote for Caleb and she tells you, it's not like you guys have like 4 other people you can bring over. There's no, you can't like leak the plan and make something else happen unless you have an idol.
And so the other thing I remember from like discussing strategy around this was that I was like, "Hey, I think my name's on the block. Like, I will, I'll tell you what other names I've heard, but like, is anything else?" And Sarah was like, "Yeah, I've heard your names on the block." And like, thank you to Sarah. But when I approached Emily about that and told her that I'd heard her name because someone had talked about it, she like clammed up and didn't say anything to me. And so I was like very frustrated at that. And like, I understand maybe she was nervous about her own thing, but it's like, I need a lifeboat here. And you were just like, "Nope, not going to help you." And so I understand and hold no ill will, but at the time I was like, please, anything.
I think this was a situation where you're just watching somebody, like, I think from my perspective, I'm seeing people say, Caleb's name, and I'm sitting here being like, well, I don't really know what he can do. It seems like, Hong is on the outs as well, so that might be somewhere to go, but you really are just like at the mercy of what Pete decides. Yeah. And I think the competitiveness of people like Katie and Eddie is sort of a double-edged sword where they can be very competitive and they want to win, but they can also see a lack of competitiveness in other people that might not actually be there and be like, well, that's to me what I want to vote out. It's really interesting. That's why I don't like playing with competitive people, because I don't impress them.
Yeah, look, if they got the impression that I'm not competitive, I think the fire that burned in me when I got voted off to where I couldn't give my exit interview shows that I was competitive.
And I love that. And I love that you even took the time to be like, no, I do want to do it. Because I remember you were like, I don't want to do it. And I was like, oh man, I do want to have a conversation with Caleb right now and be like, hey man, you did great, but I'll give him some space. And then I loved you were like, I'm back.
I literally needed like 2 minutes just to bring myself out of this and be like, this was a game. There was the moment my phone was in my hand, it was like, oh, there's a world outside of this. Okay, let's go talk. And like I can explain what happens. Because at the time it was just like me out. It was such an ego hit that I needed to be like, I was like, I think I'm gonna kill this game. So when it doesn't happen, your instant reaction is like, I'm disappointed. I'm mad at myself, and like I'm mad at getting voted out. But it wasn't like I was mad at individual people. I wasn't gonna like point at them and be like, oh, you were wrong. It was just like mad about the situation in general, and I needed to scope myself and understand like this is a game, and it is fun, and it was fun, and I just needed to remind myself of that, and then I was ready to go. I think it was under 5 minutes from I can't do this to all right, let's do this. It was not like I needed an hour and went and pouted. I just needed to reorient myself.
And I thought you gave some great voting confessionals too. Like you just were just like, I'm voting for Serena. I know you like it was not personal, just like the name you heard. But like I thought some great voting confessionals, and we talked about this I think last week. The sort of statement of like, well, if I'm not in any alliances, either I'm playing this game really bad or really well. Like it's such a funny point. It's like, oh, yeah. I have a bunch of alliances even I don't know about.
Chris, I even laughed at the end of the thing because you're like,
oh Caleb, my God.
You said, have you seen an alliance? And I was like, no, I have not, which either means there are none or I'm in a really bad spot. And then you said, are you in an alliance? And I said, if I'm in an alliance and I don't know that there are alliances, then I'm playing really well because like I'm super sneaky. It was just a funny like back-to-back way that either it was edited. I don't remember if those questions were back-to-back, but the way it was edited made was
Well,
very,
I
very
really
funny.
wanted to like catch
Yeah, they
people
were.
like lying. Like maybe if I had said it super quickly, you were going to say, yeah,
Yeah.
So looking back, it was just kind of like more of a funny moment than
Yeah,
anything else.
You can see if you watch, like, I think I just like smirk and I'm like, is this a
Yeah,
serious question?
it gets you.
And then I laughed and like, I don't think so.
Yeah, it was funny. But to your credit, I have had so many people tell me how much they've liked the first 2 vote outs. It's insane. Like all across like all different platforms, like people messaging me and saying how much they're so sad that both you and Serena are out. So if that makes you feel any better.
Yeah.
Uh,
It was fun, and I was working up I was trying to get the like witticisms, and I was like I'm going to try and be a confession guy. Like that's what I wanted to be. Was like the person who gives you guys like the gold, and unfortunately that was cut a little bit short. But if I ever get the opportunity to come play again, I promise you're getting all the material still there.
Well, I think to your credit, I might be mistaken in this. I think one time you did a confessional and like the camera's audio was messed up, so it's like it's not on you. It's like it was us. But
It was probably me.
I was yes, but that was technically my fault. So, but, it's not just me. And then Anessa sort of asks what we've talked about before, which is like, do you have any sort of anything like you can really sort of? We've talked about it a little bit, but is there anything else you wanted to expand upon?
No, I'll reiterate that Anessa. The biggest what if for me was like Pete had sort of made an initial intro, and I just didn't trust him. I thought he was playing too hard, so I didn't want to like get into his like hip pocket at the time. I obviously should have done that, which was just a poor move on my part. It's probably the biggest what if. The other what if and was I thought Serena and I had a good relationship, and I think we should have tried to work together earlier in the beginning instead of just immediately turning on each other.
If you'd done that, who would you have gone after?
I mean, I think I was just blinded by being like, Katie's the kind of like person that's going to win this game because like she's going to play really smart. I think I was blinded by being like, Katie's going to do really well. And then, so I was like, I think she has to go first, not realizing that the traits that I thought that would get her far are the things that are going to get her past the first vote. You know,
I guess you coming in, what did you think? Like, what did you think was going to work for you? Like, what were your kind of like, what do you think your biggest assets are? And like, how do you think people...
What is good about you?
No. I didn't mean it like, I didn't mean it in the sense of like you were bad.
I know you did. I just like,
no, in the sense of what I think I would do, it's like, I think I'm relatively funny. So I thought that I could use humor to build relationships with people in the tribe. I thought that I was nice. I'm not a vulnerable person. That hurts. You have to somewhat be vulnerable and forward in this game. And then I think that in a puzzle scenario, I am incredibly good at puzzles. And it's just the first 2 events were not puzzles; they were other events, and so I didn't get to show off that skill. But that's where I thought I could have really helped.
Well, it's funny because I remember on day 0, you had come to me and you were like, I won't say who you or what joke you made or like who this was directed to. But
I know
you
exactly
made a joke that like, didn't land with the person you said it to, and I was like, I relate to this so hard. Like, you can't make a joke with everybody.
No, and I won't relitigate the joke that I made, but it was awful. I apologize to this person multiple times. It wasn't. Let me rephrase this. I don't want like the people watching to think I made some like horrific,
it wasn't anything
offensive.
Like offensive.
It wasn't. It was a joke that like it was not like offensive by its nature, but it hurt the person who received the joke, and that's never the intention. And I feel very, very bad about that. I apologize to them multiple times. They appeared to accept my apology, and so it was a learning experience, but it was a bad start.
I think, Naomi, you told me about this, but honestly, I have no clue what you guys are talking about.
I think Caleb had told me about it, and I just remembered this. But to be fair, like, I have the same sort of sense of humor where I'll joke about something and then I'll be like, oh, that person does not find that funny. Oh boy, here I go. And, it's just like, it's one of those things where I was like, oh man, during a social game, just like something where I felt for you like so hard.
Yeah,
but
I never heard anything about that. I didn't hear anything about. I only heard.
I want to make it clear, it didn't affect the game or anything.
Yeah,
it was
it didn't come up in the game. Louis says, "How do you think you would have fared if you'd started on Onita?" That's a good question.
Yeah, if you started on Purple Tribe.
I think I would have done okay on the Purple Tribe. Like, I think Louis was very personal, and like I thought we sort of had like got off on the right foot, at least on day 0. I think I would have worked well with Gary. Yeah. I think I would have really bundled up with Susan and Sam and worked with them. So I think I probably would have had maybe more avenues than on my own team. But I say this only in the sense that like that's from playing from a more proactive perspective. If I played as slowly as I did in my tribe, I think the result would have been very similar.
Yeah, I think the Caleb alliance would have been very interesting to watch. That'd have been a fun
what tent were you sleeping in that night? Because I can't remember if you were in the big one or in like the other one near Tribal.
I was in the small one with Chris. Excuse me, not Chris. It was Sam, Pete, my mom, and then I think 2 people came in the middle of the night.
I think it was Emily and Susan, if I'm correct. Yeah. Was there any talks that in that tent that night amongst
not
you
particularly, not from a strategy perspective, but I think there was a lot in the other tent, if I remember correctly. And so we didn't really do that. But Sam and Pete were hilarious in the tent. They were just acting like fools.
Did you get me sleep?
Yeah, I slept. Well, okay. Yeah, Sandy was like, if you guys want to sleep, since it was like the average age of that tent was higher than I think the average age of the show. She was like, I have Advil PM. And so everybody took 1 Advil PM and we all passed out. The tent did leak though. That was not fun.
No.
Pete was acting like a madman in the tent. There were the dogs that were hanging out in the backyard, and he was sticking his head out of the tent and barking at them, and just acting a fool. It was so funny.
This is the first time hearing about this. I do not remember Pete barking at dogs.
It was so fun. He's such a character. It cracked me up.
There are a lot of, for our people who haven't been part of the Survivor New York family, there are a lot of dogs.
Yes, there are dogs. We do have to ask people if they're allergic to dogs, which is very funny. Well, we had forgotten to ask it, and then we asked for season forecast, and one of our contestants came back and was like, yes. And we're like, we have like 5 dogs in the premises. And she's like, it's fine. I'll take some allergy medication. I'll be fine. But we're like, oh my God, we almost just had to tell someone they couldn't come because there are dogs here.
Yeah, that's
crazy. And I like night 0 is really interesting. We should film it, but also we shouldn't. I feel like it's just like everybody being like reckless and being like, yeah, we're gonna sleep in tents for 3 days. Why not? Let's be weird.
Yeah.
Keep barking in the dogs. We'll definitely ask him about it when the time comes. We'll ask him how he feels about barking at the dogs. Whenever we interview him.
I mean, not even like it wasn't even like he was just like barking at them through the tent. He like unzipped a hole in the tent just large enough to stick his head out and then was barking at them.
Oh my God.
That's amazing. I need video of that. We need to stealth film them next time, Naomi. Like
I guess.
It would be amazing.
Oh, but that means I can't go to bed. So
yeah.
Like so
Caleb, have you had any other allergies since then?
No, not since then.
Thought about it?
That leads into my question, which is like, would you ever play? First of all, would you play Survivor New York again? But would you ever play a different game to consider it?
Oh yeah, I have to go out there and just like prove to myself that I can actually play the game, because I didn't get. I was about to say I didn't get the opportunity, but I got the opportunity. I did not play the game this time, and I would like to go out there and retry again and play more proactive and try and build those relationships as opposed to waiting back and just see what happens. Do I think I'll win this time? No. I came in thinking it's over. I'm running through Survivor New York. I have been humbled. That is not going to happen again. And I know that it's a very difficult thing to do. And but I'd love to give it another shot for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, like Survivor New York, I think Chris is a sucker for a redemption story, if I'm not mistaken. But
of course. I talked about it last week. Yeah, I feel like there are some players that have played. There's been like 60 something people who have played Survivor New York. Some people, their story is just not over. Like there's a lot of game left. If they didn't win, like there's just so much more that they can show in some ways. But then there's some people, they let that chapter close, the book is finished, and like, no offense, I don't know how your mom feels, but I feel like in one way your mom's book maybe is closed, but your book is like always open. You know, like that's just the kind of vibe and energy I get from like you and her. Maybe you can.
I think Sandy's book is closed, but there's a bookmark. You could open it again if you want.
Okay.
Blood versus Water 2, more blood, more water.
That's actually another question then. So Kale, did you watch the first like Blood versus Water, like the real show?
Yes.
Okay. So if I had done what they did with the Redemption Island and you were voted out, would you have asked your mom to switch spots with you at Redemption Island? And do you think she would have done that so that you could play on her tribe and she would be at Redemption Island?
I'll answer. I think that's it's a two-stage question, and I'll answer. Would I have asked my mom to switch with me? No. Would she have volunteered like Rupert did or Candace did? Yes, I think she would have.
That's just who she is. Up on that?
And she knew that was she viewed it as my opportunity to play, and she was there for the adventure, not necessarily for the game. Would I have taken her up on it? God, that's a tough one. I would have wanted to, but I would have felt guilty. Like I think maybe in the moment I would have said yes, but like I don't think I should have if I would have done it.
But isn't that what moms are like so great for? Is like,
yeah, for sure.
Both make you feel guilty, but then also like not making you feel guilty when you're like, oh, can I have like the last ice cream bar? And like, yes, of course you can. You're my child. I care about you. I think it's very funny.
Yeah, so
she totally would have offered to do it.
Yeah, for sure, Chris. To answer your direct question, she would offer to do it. I don't know if I would have accepted it, and if I would have accepted it, I would have felt bad.
All right, here's my favorite question.
Yes.
Who do you think you play most like?
The real life Survivor player you play most like.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like
Jacob Derwin?
No, it doesn't have a reflection placement. Jacob Derwin is actually
agree.
Yeah,
Jacob Derwin's a great guy, friend of the show, I guess.
He's so nice. He's so nice.
I think it really works because like I think I had the same attitude as him. Like I'm a super fan. I have this like I like to think of myself as analytical. I can come in and I can solve this unsolvable game. And there were some hijinks, there were some missteps, there were a lot of missteps, and we both sort of ended out a little bit earlier than we thought. In a positive sense of someone who like really slow played the game and waited for things to come to them, like I will say that how Tony played this season in terms of really, really slow playing it, waiting for things to come, and then getting aggressive at the end is how I wanted to play, but it did not come to the same conclusion. So that's an example where I think that game kind of works, but it didn't work in this scenario.
It's funny because I do think people on Purple actually have the opportunity to play this game you're talking about because they don't go tribal. They have much more of an opportunity to sort of relax like this. And you'll see it kind of happen throughout the rest of the season. But it's not impossible. It's just impossible if your tribe goes to 2 tribal councils in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think hard because like I think anybody who like the losing the first challenge to your mom thing, like fairly or unfairly, like put the target on your back, and even Emily's. So
Emily catches some heat as well. Pete says it. I don't remember if it's in this episode or not, but he sort of talks about how he thinks that also Emily should have like beat her mom. She's a yoga instructor. What's going on? I love when Pete like questions somebody. He's just like, I don't understand, like, why this person isn't good at this. And you're like, oh my God, I'm so bad at this. Pete's telling me I'm so bad. It really just sends you spiraling. So we're almost at an hour. I was just wondering if anybody had any more questions for Caleb before we like start to wrap up. Or Caleb, if you wanted to talk about literally anything. Talk about the stock market.
I unfortunately haven't kept up with the stock market that much recently. Left that job.
Wait, I started to say, what do you do in what's your day job, Caleb? I don't actually know that.
I'm in business school right now. Before I was an equity research analyst.
Nice.
So covering.
I write about business in my day job.
Okay.
Yeah, Andrea's very cool day job.
Yeah.
It was fun. I think it helped build like real tangible skills and how to think about things from a business strategy perspective, not from a survivor strategy perspective.
Caleb, I have a question. My question is, putting yourself back in the mindset after you're voted out, like, who are you rooting for to win?
Oh, yeah. Besides your mom, because we know that's the first answer.
I mean, we know
Sandy is 1 through 10, and then number 11. You know, there was on my own tribe, the people that I thought, or the person that I really liked and thought would go far, and I was excited for was Eddie. I was like, he's just a good guy. He's personable. He's athletic, so he'll do well in the challenges. And I was like, I think he's just got something that is going to help him place well in this show. So I was sort of rooting for him. I thought Pete would have been fun to watch go far, but I didn't. Like I said, at the time, I didn't trust him, and there's something I was like, something about him just was too much too fast.
Yeah. Anyone on the Purple Tribe you're rooting for? Oh yeah, Nessa's question is very cute, which is, do you call your mom Sandy in real life?
On occasion, yeah.
I do that too, actually. I call my dad.
Yeah, like 90% of the time it's mom, and then like 10% of the time it's Sandy.
So, anybody on the Purple Tribe you might be rooting for besides Sandy? I know that's tough.
Of the people that I liked and had relations for, were like had day zero sort of small relationships with, were Sanchea. It's probably Sanchea was probably the person that I felt the most comfortable with on the Purple Tribe, and so other than my mom, I would wish her well.
Yeah, and Sanchea has really got the underdog story right now, and your mom included, because losing your loved one really puts you sort of both in an advantage and a disadvantage spot. So, yes, and Sanchea's the underdog right now. We're gonna see like what happens.
Yeah. Winning that puzzle was really good for her.
Oh yeah.
Winning a puzzle about that puzzle. One piece wasn't necessary, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
That's diabolical. That makes it so much harder.
I've actually been playing those on my phone. Like after that episode, I was like, oh my God, this is so hard. And I downloaded like an app that does like block puzzles. And I've been doing like the hard ones. And then I'm sitting there thinking about that challenge all the time as I like try to fill in these like hexagon puzzles. So
Andrea, if only you had practiced that before season 4 of Survivor New York.
I don't think that would have changed things.
Yeah.
I don't think my journey, which you guys will get to see in Survivor New York, has anything to do with my ability to do hexagon puzzles. Spoiler.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. So, Caleb, I can't thank you enough for joining us, and I also can't thank you enough. I think Chris and I both expressed this. Like, we can't thank you for playing and taking the risk to come out and like have things not go your way. It's happened to me, but it's always it's happened to Andrea. But
I got voted out first. You lasted. Naomi and I have both been voted out first, so you've lasted longer than us.
Yes, technically. And I like, it was so much fun to have you, and like it's been so great to sort of have you a part of our community. And this has been over an hour of talking, and it's been so much fun. You guys, thank you all so very much for joining me and talking about episode 2. Chris, what can you tell us about episode 3?
So this is like one of the funnest challenges, I feel like, because you see people fall and trip and panic, and it's like the gold, like the laughing moments that you love from the real show. And then it's a double tribal council, so you're gonna see Purple finally go to tribal and see what happens, and then you're also gonna see Yellow go back to tribal.
Spoiler.
So it's really exciting because there's so much that goes on, and I think in this episode you finally see certain people that you really haven't seen a lot of in the first 2 episodes, So new characters are finally like emerging, and I think
This whole
there's just a
time-
lot of different things.
This whole time I was trying to avoid the fact that Purple goes to Tribal Council next episode, and I forgot it was in the preview. So
Yeah, it's definitely it's in the preview. So don't worry about
I
that.
remembered as soon as I was like, spoiler, and then I was like, oh yeah, it is in the preview.
So,
Yeah.
well, who cares? Everybody's going
Yeah,
to Tribal Council. They're going to compete in a challenge. You're going to see why they compete in a challenge. And I think it's also a very funny episode. If you want to see people falling over, tune in next week. So our next
Seriously.
episode is Friday at 7 p.m. We are at youtube.com/c/Survivor New York to make sure you're subscribed. And I would suggest hitting the bell so you are notified when we're about to do a live premiere so you can be in the chat with us. Lots of our former players pop in to talk. And if you want some special insights, they might even give it to you if you ask nicely. This has been the Live Reality Games podcast. Please connect with us on Facebook. Follow us on they're on Instagram now, Live Reality Games, and follow us on Instagram at Survivor New York. Look at that. And finally, you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. Just type in Live Reality Games. They're on YouTube. There's a lot to subscribe to. And so I just need you to systematically go through and subscribe to every single option that there possibly is. So, guys, thank you so much for taking this time on a Tuesday night. I really appreciate it. So much fun to catch up with you guys. And we're going to end this broadcast. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Great to catch up with you, Caleb.
Bye, guys.
Bye. And you don't have